Tennessee WildCast is live on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Jason Harmon, and welcome into this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Hey, we're excited to be here at Ames Plantation, and I got a special show for you today. We got Tank with us and Mr. Greg Griffin. We're going to talk about deer shed hunting. Yep. Deer antler shed
Tank's
hunting.
the star of the show. I don't know how long he's going to hang out right there, though.
He's going to be with us for a while, hopefully. If he runs off, we'll call him back if we need him. But
as he knocks down a camera or two.
Yeah, knocks out a camera and all that good stuff. But he's the star of the show, I believe, today.
Something that's becoming very popular out there is shed hunting with the dogs. And Greg's been, how old's Tank? 4?
He's 4.
And you've been doing this how long with him?
Ever since he was 7 weeks old.
All right, so this is, I have quite a few friends that are into shed hunting, and I thought, this would be something to talk about. And Greg was just happened to be the closest one and easiest one to get out to do it. And we actually had a couple good locations to go.
We did.
Not as good as your place in Kansas, but we'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah, we got some stuff to show and some pictures to show.
Yeah.
Maybe a story or two about this buck here. But
yeah, we got to talk about the big stud down here. So.
So this should be a fun show. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll just get started. First, I want to meet Greg and talk about, maybe learn a little bit about you and how you got into the outdoors and hunting and into this sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm like a lot of people. When I was young, my dad introduced me to hunting and squirrel hunting. I think that's for most of us what I call cut our teeth is in
groundhog.
squirrel.
I was groundhog.
But it started squirrel hunting, and as you get older, I don't know, you start pursuing the bigger game animals, and I mean, the deer is just a passion of mine. We've shed hunted. Me and both of my sons have shed hunted for many, many years without dogs, and I've had many friends that would say, "You need to get some dogs, and y'all need to train for shed dogs."
Yeah.
And I always say, yeah. Well, we finally did that 4 years ago, and I wish I'd have did it 20 years ago. I mean, we've enjoyed it so much. I mean, they've just gotten so much better. Every year you watch them progress, and he's 4 years old, and I think, like I was talking to you earlier, Jason, out of 10 sheds when they're a year old, they might find 1 or 2. Then they find 3 or 4. Then next thing you know, they're finding at least half of everything we find, but we find a lot. And when I say the dog finds a shed, I don't mean like we see it then they go get it. I mean that's when they bring it up and we know nothing about it. So that's when we claim for them to be finding the sheds, Right. But we find a lot. I think we found 115, close to that number this year.
So tell us the time frame that that y'all do this. When do they start dropping their antlers, and when do you find them?
Pretty much a rule of thumb when we go back in the Midwest where we hunt out in Kansas, usually mid-March, everything is pretty much dropped.
Okay.
This year, we had a few that was, even one of our better 4-year-olds was hanging on to his. I mean, we'd already gotten there. I think we got there on Tuesday, which was the 10th or 11th this year. And we was sitting watching TV that night, and the deer that
this is pretty wild.
The deer that I'm wanting to find, we call goalpost.
Okay.
My phone dings, and I get a picture of him. I'm like, I told Jeremy, I said, well, we can't go in there. I said, we got to avoid that. I said, he's still got both sides. So we actually was going to cut around and go to another piece of the property. When you have to go through this one gate to go around, my oldest son looked out and he said, there's a nice shed right there. And this was the next morning now.
Uh-huh.
And when we pull up there, goalpost had done shedded. Both sheds laying 30 yards inside the gate.
Yeah, wow. Right at the gate.
Yeah.
It's not how you find them every day.
So they're not always that easy,
not
I can
that
promise
easy.
you. No.
I've only found probably 3 or 4 sheds in my whole life. I've never really went hunting for them. I was just out in the woods at the right time.
Right.
And so anyway, that's pretty cool.
We ought to bump into the Kansas picture or the slide there. That's you all in Kansas. That's what you and Tank did in Kansas, is it right? Or with the boys?
And actually my oldest son and his dog,
son.
right,
all right,
yes.
And so 38 in 3 days.
Mm-hmm. And, that's not just – I mean, it's good. we shed hunt these farms every year, so you got to remember there's not going to be tons of old sheds laying on them. So, but it was good. You know, the most we've ever found up there, I think, was 50-something. So
wow. And in Tennessee, y'all do this as well, but
we do.
You're probably not going to see this caliber, this mass.
No, that's right.
In some places you might. There's some
Yeah.
big deer in Tennessee, but how is the hunting compared in Tennessee as it is to Kansas?
Well, I mean, there's quite a bit of difference there.
It's like night and day.
It's probably
but,
a lot harder.
Yes.
We went, and, we were talking that we really weren't finding that many, and we thought
Right.
they were still holding on to them.
That's right.
And then wasn't it last week that my husband still saw a buck with both? I think he texted you and said, I just saw one with both antlers still on.
He actually
So-
did, and I've talked to a couple more guys that actually have seen some too.
Right. So, it's like they haven't, like they're still holding on
That's
to them,
right.
haven't dropped.
That's right.
So, but now when we went, you like to go, and when we're going, you like the sun at your back.
I prefer a rainy, cloudy day. If you said you could only go one day, it's going to be a rainy, cloudy day, and
But if it's sunny, it needs to be at your back.
it
'Cause
does.
we were there on a sunny day.
If you ever noticed an antler, you can lay that antler out anywhere on a sunny day, especially in the woods. It's very difficult to see on sunny days, but that overcast, even a rainy day, I mean, that antler, to me, I say it just pops in the woods. And, rain, a lot of times it kind of lays the forest floor down a little bit. So, I mean, it is easier. If they're not easy to find, but they're easier on them days, So.
And we had noticed, and we did. Now, I will say, not all these pictures are antlers we found that day. We did
Right.
bait a little area up just for
Okay.
pictures. But now, what was so funny is we did bait an area, and we're like, that's not a baited one.
The very first
Yeah,
one.
the very first one was not what we baited
Yeah.
up. But, just to get some photos and some videos. But we went on, 2 long days or
That's
whatever
right.
doing it. But we did notice on the one of them out there that with our sun to our back, it was easier to see it.
That's
and when
right.
we turned the other way, because we left it out there, and when we were walking back, we knew where it was, and we couldn't see it.
It's
we
just
couldn't see it in the
difficult.
wheat field.
So talk a little bit about how you train Tank to do this.
Well, I would like to give all the credit to myself, but I can't. Nobody around here that we knew of knows how to train shed dogs anyway. I called Tom Dockin. He's in Minnesota. He's pretty world-renowned guy. He is for shed dogs. He's the one that trains Lee and Tiffany Lakoski's dogs, and I tell you, they were so helpful with me. I kept, I know they probably got tired of me calling.
It's that guy again. No.
But even if they didn't answer that day, they would always call me back in a day or two, and I was more than willing to pay for his advice. And that's what I kept telling him. He said, Greg, he said, if your dog's not here, you're not going to pay for it. But, the long and short of it, it started out in a hallway. And I don't want to just sit and say Tom Dockin, but Jeremy Moore is another guy that we talked to quite a bit too. And but it starts in the hallway of your house and shut your doors. It's kind of teaching.
The old retriever drill.
That's it. I mean, that's where you start. Then you progress to the front porch, then in the yard. But it's like he told me, he said, Greg, he said, a horn, it's not warm, it don't move, it don't fly. He said, and it don't feel good in their mouth. He said, you've really got, as he brings them to you, you got to get really excited. I mean, show him how excited you are, and that's, when we moved to the yards or whatever, that's what I did,
Well, I used to always say with your tracking dogs, what goes up the leash goes down the leash.
Yeah.
So if you're excited, he's excited, he's excited, you're excited, it's good. If you're not, they feed off you. So you've got to have that interaction.
That's right.
I'd say you've probably got, you do have a lot of experience because you were a canine officer at one time. So you've had a couple dogs.
Like 15 years.
And you've worked with them and trained them to track, ammunition and that kind of thing.
And I had retrievers before that, and then I have the bird dogs now. So, yeah. And it all comes back down to basic dog behavior. And like you said, you start in the hallway. I always go back to the old Waters books. Everybody's read those. But you start where, you throw it in the hallway. And then everybody that I know with the antlers have started with their dogs in the hallway, then the backyard, and then going out and planting them for them, and then going out and actually start looking for them yourself.
Can they find them? Do they have a scent? I mean, I can't smell it, but
they do. It's not really strong, Jason. But I mean, like if a deer drops one, then
you'll still see it'll be fresh, and there'll still be some blood right there. There'll be some hair. And that will hold a scent a little bit longer.
I'll tell you when I really realized they had some scent one time was coming back from Kansas. You know, you can smell them, and you really can't smell much on them. Well, we had about 30 of them, and we always go in Cabela's on the way back.
Of course, you got to stop at Cabela's. I mean, come on.
When I opened the doors to get back in the truck, I realized them antlers had a smell to me. I mean, it really was. You know, I know that dog can smell them a lot better. Tank, for instance, and I'll tell you this really quick, I have actually seen him go and just kind of lock it down. And I know he's smelling something, but he, for the most part, he's a sight dog, I think, most of the time because he covers so much ground. Gotcha. If I was to get him right now and go out here and say, Tank, find that bone, you would be surprised how quick he would comb that field.
Yeah, they can cover an area pretty quick. And he did a really good job. And when I go back looking at he was almost grid searching.
Right.
He was very methodical about what he was doing. He had a pattern to himself.
He did.
But he was sight hunting more than anything. We had a win.
Yeah.
But you'd see when he, as I say, when he just hit the scent, you'd see him, turn it and go to it.
When that antler first falls, it's got some scent to it. You know, after it sits there a year or so, I don't think there's much. You know, when it gets wet, true enough, I think it creates.
Hey, I got to stop back and say this. You talked about everybody stops at Cabela's. I will say thank you, Cabela's, for having kennels and horse stalls for the ones of us that travel cross country. It is a great place to stop and put your horses in a little stall outside. Put your dogs in a kennel, and you can go in Cabela's and shop for a few minutes,
yes, you can.
or an hour, and then come back out, and everybody's had a little break. But
thank
you for that.
And they thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a nice facility when you're traveling with dogs and horses to be able to stop somewhere like that just to have a few minutes break. Everybody needs a break. But all right, now we'll jump back into that.
That's cool. That's
so
awesome.
Now y'all go to Kansas every year. And like I said, 38 in 3 days. And then we got some pictures of this is us searching here local when you got back.
Right.
There's I got a video here. We'll show that and they can watch.
Now, how many have you found so far in Tennessee?
I can't see it here, but
since you got back.
But between me and my boys, we have, all right, you'd have to add up what was 115 minus 38, so the rest of them are here. So.
All right. Well, y'all been busy. I know we went twice, and we were trying to get to another day, but we just kind of hadn't got there.
You know, the key, they're not easy to find. I mean, everybody thinks they got them. Like come to my farm, you know.
Well, and we did that. You came out where we hunt, and we didn't find one.
Right.
But now we're covered up. I'm not going to lie. We are in a very good area for hunting in Hardeman County, and you know that.
And I do know that.
And that's something. So where do you go? It's not where you saw them during deer season in the rut. You like to go to different areas. So where do you like to go?
If you've got any late season food sources, I'm telling you, that's one of the key things because them deer are what we call winter up and really stage up in them places. Where we've got standing cornfields, bean fields, whatever we've got that's late season is you can find them within that mile or two radius. You're going to generally pick up most of them. It's the same way in Kansas. We've got, for whatever reason, we have got one block of timber up there that them deer winter in every year. It is unbelievable. That's where two of these sheds come from.
Yeah, pick them up and show them for everybody so they can see.
This deer here is a deer we called Split 2. I knew him very well. I just hate he got eat up. We never went in that block last year. He was 4.5 last year. I killed him this year at 5.5, and he was 192 and 4/8. Yeah,
I saw a picture. He was a big
one. We knew him very well, and I had another deer that we called. I can go into story after story, but we called him Jake, and we lost him to the neighbors. We think that shot him with a rifle at 4.5. He was a 160-inch deer. I passed this deer, and my son did too. We only bow hunt up there. So I passed this deer one morning. He passed him twice. And Jake I had passed a couple of different times, but, you know, you lose some of them. That's everywhere. If I could put them, I always say if I could put them in a bottle and turn them loose after season, I'd do it, but it don't work like that.
You always like, where did this one go and what neighbor has him?
That's right.
Now, I will say, this is the only man I know of that goes in that morning, kills the deer, early, and then checks his camera, his cell phone later, and you've got a picture of him.
It's unbelievable.
coming right to you. You can see you in the stand, and you can see the buck.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
It really was. And when I pulled it, I mean, I had a picture of me in the tree. I mean, I was already ready, and he was I had a imperial whitetail clover food plot up there. And
Got to get that in there.
he was standing there, and I was fisting to draw on him. He was 41 yards. And he started walking. I was like, and he got behind trees. But anyway, when it was unbelievable. I've never had that happen to me before,
it was really cool to see the picture.
I bet that was awesome.
It was.
Now these are a couple others, and you'll find some. As you said, some deadheads. You've got some deadheads. And we find them every year. You do. I know we've found one when we were out walking. So.
Some of them take leaps and bounds up there, just like some deer. That deer you just had, Amy, is a 4.5-year-old deer. He's not ever going to be a whole lot. I mean, a lot of people look at him and say, well, why could you say that? Well, I mean, he definitely grew some from 3.5, but I don't think he's ever hit the 170 mark. And we don't hardly shoot him. We hadn't killed a deer up there. It's been a long time since we killed one even below 170.
Wow.
I mean, you can take it to that next level when you go out there.
We're starting to see bigger caliber deer in Tennessee too, in those higher numbers.
Right.
People, folks can wait a year or two, and you'll see them on your property.
All of these deer are 4.5.
Now,
we know them.
What's been your best day? Kansas or Tennessee, or I mean, you got that one day that was just wow.
As far as finding sheds.
Yeah, finding sheds.
Probably the best day we've ever had was in Tennessee.
Really?
Finding sheds. We found 21 one day. Yeah.
Oh, and that's with your sons and their dog.
That's right.
One
day.
dog.
Actually, just me and Tank.
You and Tank.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's a day out with me and my dog.
Yeah, I mean it was unbelievable, Yeah.
And,
now, and I gotta laugh with him. As soon as he gets there, he's got his little coat, and then you always have your binoculars.
I do.
He's always got his binoculars, and he's always looking in the woods. What else? Anything else besides your treats for Tank? Because he is food driven. He does like his.
He does like his treats.
He likes his snack.
And if he can bring me antlers like this, I do not mind giving him one.
You got that right.
Oh yeah.
But
back to how you find them. You said you section the woods or wherever they're wintering or whatever. But what about tree lines and fence lines where they're crossing and jumping and maybe thick areas where they catch their antlers on stuff?
I know a lot. Y'all have heard this as much as I have. When they jump the fence, they lose their antlers, and it. I'm sure I know that's very true because if it jars, if it's ready to come off and it has a hard jar, but I've never been fortunate enough to find a lot.
Yeah, and actually my husband was looking at a friend of ours' Facebook video, and she was showing the turkey and the deer in the field, and he said, nice shed. And there was one right at her fence along her cattle field.
Right.
There's a shed, and she missed it. And then, but, a lot of people watched the video and had to go back, and there it was. And he's like, I'm always looking for a shed. But, yeah, I've actually found them at a fence and found them at a ditch crossing where they've had to,
The thing of it is there's really no certain place that they fall off.
But you like those green food plots or those places where they were feeding in the late winter.
Because, after the rut, these deer really wore out, and I mean, they'll eat and wherever they're bedding, they generally don't do tons of traveling in. I'm not going to say some of them don't, but I mean, it's in them areas as they're recovering from a rut, that you generally will find them pretty close to if you got food sources. We found them in the middle of a four-wheeler trail with no food sources nowhere. It's just when they get ready to come off.
And back as an officer, we were looking for a guy had been on another guy's property, and it was kind of turkey season this time of year, and we were down walking through the creek. And sure enough, we found both sets in the water, laying in the creek. Of course, he kept them. It's like, I found them. And that brings it up. I need to bring this up.
I was going to say, this would be a good time.
We've got to do some legal ease here. We've got to bring up some legal things. You must have permission to go on someone's property to look for sheds. Greg here has got a lot of friends, and a lot of people, you're not hunting the deer, you're hunting the sheds. So they're like, man, show me what I've got. And they like for you to come. But one thing, I'm going to grab my iPad here because I do need to look at an email.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about accessing our public property.
But if you wanted to go on our public WMAs, here are the rules. And this is in code. WMAs are closed to shed hunting when turkey season is open. Okay? That way you're not interfering with the turkey hunt. All right? And dogs are required to be on a leash. So I know Tank is used to working off lead.
Right.
That's on private property. But if you should go to a WMA, he would have to be on a long leash. You could have a 30-foot cord or something, 30-foot cord. One thing I want to bring up in West Tennessee, President's Island is closed, okay? That is not
I'm
our
sure
property.
a lot of people would like to search there.
You cannot go to President's Island and look for sheds. That's with a dog or without a dog. Now, also, if you were wanting to go to WMA, I would suggest, here's the hunting guide. Be familiar with it. All the WMA managers, their names are in the hunting guides under the WMA. Call them and talk to them. Talk to the individual manager and talk about the access to the area with the dogs and make sure you're not interfering with any type of hunt. And just to let them know that you're there shed hunting. You know, you're not out there doing something else. So
yeah, and those guys are very helpful. Those managers, they know the property like the back of their hand. They can help you with parking and where you can be, where you can't be.
Right, and they can always tell you, hey, we've got this hunt going on. But remember, guys, if you want to go, check the hunting guide. If turkey season is open, you can't be on there shed hunting, okay?
Which, do you have that? When's turkey season closed? Do you know?
Second weekend in
May,
somewhere
like
in there.
So, yeah. So, you got to think about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, and right now is the time to go, but you've got to be aware it is closed to access when turkey season is going on. So.
Awesome. Well, Greg, tell us a story. Tell us a hunting story or something that brings back good memories. I know you're not just a shed hunter. You like to hunt deer. Do you hunt turkeys? Do you fish?
Oh, yeah. I don't fish as much anymore. I don't know. I don't find time to do.
He finds time to find sheds.
Yeah.
I'm going to find time to hunt these deer and shed hunt. And I do turkey hunt some. I mean, I don't. It's not about really killing stuff to me anymore. I don't even like to say this.
I think as we all grow older, that goes away.
It's really not, you know. And I've went turkey hunting a couple times this year, and I'm like this short, and I'm really not hearing many birds on our place. I'm really not.
The other morning, that was it.
And my oldest son went with me one day last week, and he called me that night, and he said, I'm going to go with you. I said, well, I can go for a little while. Then he called me back. He said, I'm not going to go with you. He said, you're not even going to kill one if he comes up. Then he called me back, and he said, well, the other guy can't, so I'm going. But we did. We caught a big bird in that morning. He videoed him, walked by, and he looked, and he shook his head. He said, I knew you weren't going to shoot him, Daddy. And I said, how many birds did you hear? He said, one, there's no birds on this farm. I said, that's right, I didn't shoot the bird. But, you know, I mean, that's as much fun to me sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
fixing to go to Kansas, and I will kill me a couple birds up there. But we've got a lot of birds up there. You can step out and about any place we got up in here, 15 or 20 gobble. I mean, it's kind of crazy up there, you know. But they got a 2-bird limit. Their season's about as long as ours, but it is a 2-bird limit, and they got a lot of them. So, but I don't know, Jason. These whitetails are my passion, and it's like I told you earlier. It just grows stronger and stronger for me every year. Especially some deer you get history with. All of these, like I said, all these are 4-year-old deer. I don't know if that one's going to do much. I don't think I think he may top out in the 160s at best. This one here.
That's hard to believe. Well, my cull buck's about a 160.
Well, you know, and I'm not going to say he's a cull, but he's just one of them that genetically
he's just not going to. He's inferior.
He's not,
he's just, yeah.
But this one here has definitely got some potential.
How old would you say that one is?
He's 4.
4.5.
4.5.
He is. Mm-hmm.
All right.
See, he don't have the mass of some of these deer up there at 4.5, but he's got a lot of length on him, you know.
Right. And you showed me a picture of this one when you harvested. This fork was, I mean, it was almost this tall.
Come on up, yeah.
So what would you say if you were going to measure this one at this 4.5-year-old?
If I've got so many pictures I could show you. We guessed him in 160, maybe low 60s.
So almost 30 points in a year.
Yeah, but I mean, if the squirrels hadn't eaten him off, he definitely had some. He had some pretty good length on these.
Definitely.
But, yeah, he was a solid deer. I mean, this would be the kind of deer I'd love to see around here. Mm-hmm. You know.
I think we're getting there. I think we're seeing bigger deer every year.
Right.
But just give it some time.
No, you're right. I mean, there is always a few people that's fortunate enough to harvest one that we would really like to see around here. But
it's hard to believe the world record right there in Sumner County.
Yeah.
Well, the non-typical anyway.
Yeah. Now, Greg, let me ask you this. If somebody was watching this show and he says, I want to do it, what would you recommend for them to get into it and how to start doing it with their dog?
With their dog? Well, there's
books and videos,
there
too.
is.
And there's people you can ask for, like you did. But,
that's right.
If you just want to watch this, what do I need to do? Well, how do I need to get into it?
I mean, like we said, just you start him retrieving, and you know, you want to get a little small horn.
Like a couple inches.
Something that cannot, like points like are on these. You know how puppies want to just grab something. I mean, the worst thing you want to do is have one of these stick him, and all of a sudden he's scared to get it. You know, and that I'm telling you what they told me, and it's true. But I started with like a little 4-point. And I even grinded the tines down to where they really couldn't.
Yeah,
I did.
My other buddy did too.
So
he couldn't stab himself or get hurt.
But that's what I would do, and you know, you just progress. You know, as he's doing that, you got to make that really, really fun, and let him know that this is what excites you, so it'll excite him. And you know, once you move out in the yard and you really start placing them around, and he does find them and bring them back. Now I'm telling you, it goes to a different level. It really does.
And like you said, you've watched Tank grow every year as a shed hunting dog.
So when did you start training him? How old was he?
7 weeks.
Starting with the hallway.
Yeah, I did. I mean,
Day 49. No, I'm just
he was he was the horn. I mean, it looked like even a small horn looked like it was gigantic for him to pick up. He was so small.
Now people are saying, what are they talking about? I know somebody's out there saying, what are they talking about in the hallway? You close all the doors.
That's
you
it.
You throw
That's it.
The antler down at the end of the hallway, and you have him go get it and bring it back. And the reason why you close the door, they can't go anywhere.
That's exactly
the hallway
right.
funnels them straight to you.
And then you give him as much praise as you can.
Yes,
That's it.
and they're not going to go
That's it.
past you, but that's just, and that's the same way with starting one to retrieve with a dummy or a ball. You start in the hallway.
That's it. Yeah,
and then, you know, as you progress outside, you can get that long line if you need it to get to them.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. That's awesome. Well,
I know somebody was thinking, what are they talking about?
Yeah, if you just tuned in, this was all about shed hunting with dogs, and Tank is our star. Come here, Tank. Come here, boy. He's going to come see me now. But anyway, this guy right here can find those sheds, and Greg is.
Just remember, guys, ask permission to go on private property and check the WMA before you go.
Greg, we appreciate you joining us today and just giving us a little bit of insight on all this and showing us some pictures and video, and good luck out there.
I appreciate that.
Fun stuff. Maybe get you a couple birds here in a few weeks.
That's right.
In Kansas.
We're going to give that a try.
So, all right. Well, Amy, thank you for co-hosting with me and getting these shows together. This has been a great day, and we thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on Tennessee WildCast.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.